So for a Borris-Ileigh perspective on Sunday's Munster final, delighted to be joined on the line by Shane Stapleton, presenter of GAA show Our Game, which you can check out on YouTube, and he's also All-Ireland Club winner with Coola. And Shane, it must be a strange week for yourself. You're a Borris-Ileigh man based up in Dublin. Your brother Paddy will be lining out at fullback in this Munster final. Is there a part of you that would like to be putting on that maroon and white jersey on Sunday?
I didn't think you were going to go in 2-footed straight away, Tomas. But I've had this a few times, as you can imagine, over the years. Would you not like to be down playing with your home club and all that? And I often say, if it was like my father's generation and that beforehand, sure, couldn't I do both? Just play as a banger up in Dublin and go down home for the matches, that sort of thing. But
yeah.
I absolutely love playing with the boys in Coola, but there's no doubt, wouldn't it be great at the same time to tug out with the brother and the cousins and all, and the boys from down home? Without doubt, I was very excited for this match. Jeez, I couldn't be more excited because Borris-Ileigh are obviously massive underdogs, and rightly so, because Ballygunner have been here for the last 6 seasons in a row, and I think they've won 8 of their last 9 games in Munster, and the last 2 by fairly heavy scorelines. So, yeah, kind of going down there in hope as anything else. But I think if everything went right for Borris, you just never know.
Yeah, and like you must have played with a lot of the Borris lads that are going to be lining out on Sunday, Shane. Actually,
not all that many of them.
Right.
I would have played a little bit with the brother, and I remember a few Brendan Maher in his first ever training session with the Borris seniors. Jeez, that must have been 2005, I think, when he first came on the scene. I remember his debut for Borris-Ileigh was he was like, the North final would be a big deal. You know, the way they're split up in divisions and tip. The North final would have been a particularly big deal at that stage for Borris because having won nothing for a few years. But I remember he was named for his debut at age 15, corner forward, ahead of his eldest brother who was left on the bench. So I remember it being named at the time, and just kind of all of our jaws dropped, and we didn't know which way to look. But we didn't end up going out and scoring 3 points from play in a free roll, and Borris-Ileigh won the match. So that was sort of brilliant. But yeah, there's an awful lot of players of that Borris-Ileigh team that are only there the last 4 or 5 years, and I just looked through them. Paddy's probably there the longest. He's been playing for 17 years. Brendan after that. And after that, it was a comparatively young team. I'd say the vast majority didn't play in the previous decade.
Yeah, very good. And like it was the first county title in 33 years, Shane. Like, you were involved with Coola on the day playing St. Mullins in the Leinster Championship. How did you find out that Borris has finally done it?
Why did you have to bring that Mullins game up? But yeah, it was an unbelievable day for Borris-Ileigh, because that weight of history, I'd say many clubs around the country know what that's like. And the game at Mullins happened, and there was the drama and almost tragedy of the selector for St. Mullins getting the heart attack in the stands, and just everyone not knowing what's going on, because obviously our players devastated to lose that game. The Mullins lads happy, and then they look at the sideline, and then they're devastated. And then things are going along, and then I just kind of checked Twitter a few minutes later, because what can you do? And I see Borris-Ileigh are up by 4, and then I see it's back to 2 and the whole lot. And I'm delighted, I suppose, if you can compartmentalise your feelings, delighted then when they win. And then I rang my mother and my father separately to see how, and they were delighted, and just talked about people being in tears on the field afterwards. A whole town just kind of erupted at once. And I wondered then for the Glen Rovers game a week after, how would Borris be? Because, towns being what they are, and hurling meaning so much, sure, the whole lot of them went down the beard till Tuesday anyway, until the early hours of it, understandably enough. But, they got the dirty petrol out of the tank on the Wednesday evening, had another training session on Friday. I'll tell you, having watched the Glen Rovers game, made hard work of it for a finish. Glen Rovers never got going, or maybe they're not all that good, whatever it is, but Borris-Ileigh could have won by a lot more. And I think that kind of game, it was the right game to get, a winnable game, and they were able to get through it. And sure, just who knows what will happen on Sunday.
And just going back to that county final, Shane, like your brother Paddy said afterwards that the win put a smile back on people's faces in the club, and like it's been a pretty tough 2019 for the club. Like, you lost your sister Amanda to cancer earlier this year, and Paddy was saying like that kind of her spirit was with him kind of the week of the final. Did that day kind of give your own family and others in Borris-Ileigh a big lift?
Yeah, I mean, sure, I suppose you can't help but think about things that you'd have gone through on days like that. Even like, of course, hurling makes no odds when you're talking about something like losing your sister, and definitely, it could never, salve the wounds. But at the same time, you do have to embrace the fact that you'd have a positive day when you've had so many bleak ones, because there's a couple of young lads on that team, Kevin Maher and James Devaney. They would have lost a couple of friends in the past couple of years. I think most people on that team would have someone either close or related that they've lost in tragic circumstances one way or another in the last 15 months. So it's been a rotten time in Borris-Ileigh, small enough village, and I think most villages have had some sort of a tragedy kind of thrown upon them. So yeah, it's definitely a great positive to have that, because I think when a town is so heavily wrapped up in its identity being around GAA, the fact that the one thing that the town is known for can be a positive at least gives you something. It'll never change what's happened, but it at least gives you something. So that's definitely a good thing.
Yeah, and I think like Paddy said, there was nearly 20 players on the pitch that day in the county final, and do you feel that they're kind of carrying that momentum forward? And even though there was only a week gap between the county final and the Munster semi-final, that they were pretty keen to drive on and achieve more, Shane.
Yeah, because the Tipperary Championship has evened out massively. Thurles were battering everyone there for a long time, and they definitely had a bit of a poor season for sure. And then last year, of course, they got knocked out. So Clonalty won it. So you've two new champions after someone had dominated, and previously Toomevara had dominated for so long. Borris-Ileigh did want to kick on. You don't just want to lose or just win a title and then meekly go out. I mean, I think no matter what, it would have been a brilliant season, even if they had to go out. But why not try and kick on when you can? And as I said, it was a very winnable game against Glen Rovers, and they will want to kick on more, because history has been talked about in Borris-Ileigh for God knows how long, in terms of winning that All-Ireland in 87, the last county title in 86, and that was probably a milestone around the next generation for a long, long time. And this is probably the perfect blend of a Borris team that we've seen in the last 30 years, because Paddy's there, he's 34, but he's still hurling some great stuff. Brendan is 30, and then after that it's young lads who are, I'd say, 27 and younger. So the beauty of it is the likes of James Devaney and Kevin Maher, the two corner forwards, they've come in this year, so they're just about the right age to come in and make an impact, and by God they have. But my concern is coming into a final is the same for what it was for Patrick Swell the last day. Patrick Swell had been in the Munster Championship a couple of years ago, but they're novices at this stage. Borris-Ileigh are massive novices at this stage. You're up against a team that has been there here so often, and you could see with Patrick Swell, they were missing chances and getting punished for it. And it ended up being an 9-point loss. And that's the thing for Borris. They have to hit everything. Whereas Ballygunner, because they're just such a well-oiled machine, if they're probably even at 80% of what they're normally at, chances are they're going to see it through.
Yeah, but at the same time, Shane, the manager Johnny Kelly, he's experienced winning Club All-Irelands with Port Umna. There is a spine of Tipperary inter-county players there: Paddy Stapleton, Brendan Maher, Dan McCormack, the Kennys up top as well. So there's plenty of threats there from a Borris-Ileigh perspective. Looking at it, how do you think that Borris-Ileigh can really hurt this Ballygunner team on Sunday?
Yeah, see, that is the thing. I mean, it'd be easy to say, try and get Philip Mahoney away from protecting the full backline. But of course, that's a very difficult task, and De La Salle tried it in the county final, and probably, that didn't fully happen for them either. So it's very hard to know, but Páirce Mahoney's going to go roaming from centre forward out the field. So do you put Brendan Maher on him and say, follow him out and try and punish him the other way? Keeping into Desi Hutchinson, like his speed there. I mean, he talks in an interview with me a few weeks ago about how he didn't feel that he was pacey at Premier League level or professional soccer level, but when he's back to this level in GAA, he certainly is. So I think you're just going to need to stop the supply going in, because Ballygunner's game plan is just to basically have something like 5 midfielders, let Philip Mahoney sit back, and everyone kind of hit lovely ball up the field to whether it's Tim O'Sullivan, Peter Hogan or Desi Hutchinson, 2 out of 3 are going to be inside and everyone else roaming and trying to feed ball into them. That's the tough thing for Borris. Do you sit back or do you press out? And like Borris wouldn't be a tactical team by comparison with Ballygunner, who are so well oiled. So for Borris, it's like, do you stick or twist? And that's the tough thing, and that's why I have those concerns for Borris. Like, there's part of me that thinks Borris can win, but there's part of me that's concerned about a double-digit seed too.
Right, and like you had a big tactical discussion with Derek McGrath on Our Game a programme during the week, Shane, and like one of the things you touched on it there, what to do with Páirc Mahony. Like, we've seen the last 3 games, Kevin Moore and Cayman Morey, Dermot Burns all sit off while, Páirc is pulling the strings from centre forward. Like, with Brendan Maher at 6 for Borris, do you think, will he stay or will he go?
I don't know. It's something that I've been racking my brain about and had a good chat with Derek about it, because you would want Brendan sitting back, because he's Borris-Ileigh's most assured hurler. You do want him kind of protecting the back line and giving a bit of protection to, I presume Paddy will be back there in the full back line, and maybe it'll be either Seamus Burke or Liam Ryan Drifter. But the beauty of Brendan is he's so versatile. You could have him going out past midfield, and like, he stayed even in the half-forward line for tip. So you could put, like, whoever's on Páirc, if they're Páirc Mahony, if they are following him out the field and sticking to him, that I would be happy enough if they were kind of a natural hurler too, who can punish you going the other way. Dan McCormack wouldn't be known as a massive shooter, and obviously Noel McGrath neared him on the on the night of the All Ireland at RT. But if he, for example, if he was going to stick on him, that he would try and press forward to carry the ball up and create overlaps and hit people on the shoulder. So
yeah, could he be the ideal player in a way, Shane, to put on Páirc Mahony, Dan McCormack?
Well, I think the flip side then is you want your team to not change too much of what they were doing in the past. Like, what has worked for Borris-Ileigh? It's been Brendan sitting in front of the full back line. It's been Dan McCormack being around midfield, sitting at the base of it and directing traffic. So I don't know if you have to play horses for courses, but if Borris-Ileigh turn everything upside down and you have guys in unnatural positions, then maybe you're kind of moving away from what got you there in the first place. The other option is Tommy Ryan Foot is midfield, and maybe he'd go and do a man-marking job. But I mean, that's the flip side. Even if you shut down Páirc Mahony, who got 1 from play the last day, like Michael Mahony might score 4 from play, and Desi Hutchinson might score 5 from play. So I think that's where the concern is for Borris-Ileigh. Borris-Ileigh probably have a couple of fires that Ballygunner needs to put out. There are an awful lot of them that Borris needs to put out going the other way.
And is a big start essential for Borris-Ileigh, Shane? Like, Ballygunner have a habit of coming out the traps fairly hot, and they usually get the first couple of scores in any game they go out in.
Well, I think in the past Borris-Ileigh have had situations whereby they've started poorly and then there's been a bit of a collapse, and I think that was seen in the 2017 county final against Thurles Sarsfields, which they ended up losing by 16 points. But I was at the quarter-final against Drummond, the Tipperary County final quarter-final against Drum and Inch, and Drum started very, very well. I don't think Borris scored for the first 15 minutes, but got themselves back into the game, so there was no panic. And there's been times in every game where Borris-Ileigh put themselves under pressure or are under the cosh. So whether it happens at the start of the game, middle of the game, I think the Borris team is a little bit better at adjusting to those situations, and maybe it's having Johnny Kelly in there and having that decent spine to the team like you talked about. But yeah, I mean, if there's any team you don't want getting 4 or 5 points ahead of you, it's Ballygunner, because their system is so set, and they look like a team that I'd say Derek McGrath would probably hone in his own image, and so that if you do go behind them, they're very well set up to make sure that you don't get through and get those goals. And with Páirc Mahony sweeping in front, he's such a good player, and he has that that shovel hand pass we see so often to get himself out of trouble. They're just assured back there, like Philip Mahony, Barry Coughlin and Shane O'Sullivan. That's a serious half back line, and it's going to be hard to get through. So yeah, I would echo your concerns for Borris-Ileigh if Ballygunner did get ahead early.
Yeah, absolutely. And just finally, Shane, before I let you go, who have you been speaking to on Our Game channel this week, and where can people find it?
Yeah, so if you just go to YouTube and just type in Our Game, you should find it pretty quickly. The icon in the Coola jersey with Clean O'Connor, who's a coach with Dublin. Some of the interviews I've done this week, Shane O'Sullivan from Ballygunner, spoke with him, Brendan Maher, and there's a few football ones. There's Derek McGrath, and I was at the CPA press conference this week, so if people are interested in why the CPA have withdrawn from talks with the GAA, who they've called disingenuous and who are never really interested in, kind of fixing the fixtures with them in a way that would suit everyone, including the club players, and that's definitely worth checking out. And of course, I've done plenty of previews of all the weekend's hurling and football with Michael Verney, including talking about Dan the Man Shanahan and St Mary's this weekend. And Ballysaggers, of course, too.
Brilliant. Well, Shane, thanks a million for your time today, and wish you continued success with your GAA show, Our Game, which people can check out on YouTube.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Mark.